Welcome back, guys, to the Full Force Fathers podcast, episode number 59, Dave. Hard to believe it, but here we are, closing on the big 6-0 already.
I know, it's wild. How's everything going out there in Tucson?
It's warm. I was just on a morning walk with Andine this morning, and we were saying we've been in the state of Arizona now because we stayed in Wilcox for those few days before we got to Tucson. And it's not raining. It doesn't rain, as you know. And it's been 85 to 95 every single day. And on our morning walk this morning, Andine goes, man, this is what I miss so much, was the fact that I don't have to look at the weather. I know what it's going to be every day. I said, yeah, we've been in the state of Arizona for 30 days now, and we haven't seen one drop of rain. In at least the next 30 days to 60 days, we're still not going to see another drop of rain.
Yeah, it's crazy. It really is crazy this time of year. People don't, unless you're from there, you don't realize, like, it is just bone dry. I always tell people here, because I'm sick of, I get sick of the rain in a hurry. I love droughts. That's what I always tell people. I love drought time because that's one of the things I always loved about Tucson, was not having to deal with any rain.
You legitimately never look at the weather. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some things about the East Coast that I do miss a little bit. I do miss the cool nights this time of the year on the East Coast because, as you know, those 45, 50-degree mornings are nice. That doesn't exist anymore. You know what I mean? Everything, 65 is the low, is the consistent low now. And then soon it'll be 70 for the low. So those cooler mornings with some moisture in the air, I do miss a little bit. So I'm not gonna lie, but I mean, not looking at the weather is a huge benefit.
Oh yeah. You never have to look at the weather. You never have to watch the news for it. You never got to check your app for it. It's hot. It's hot and it's dry.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hot and sunny now, and this is the last episode I will be re-recording from the campground. Actually, when this show releases, we will have been in the house for a few days. But as we record, we're at the campground, and there's a convention here this weekend. 150 campers are coming in from the same manufacturer for a rally, is what they call it. And I'm thinking to myself, like, is there going to be like biker gangs and shit, or like what are we talking? What's a camper rally? That's what I want to know. And it's crazy because I went over like the list of events with, oh, by the way, this one you're going to love. What do you think the person that is in charge of the rally is called?
Master of ceremonies.
They are the wagon master.
Oh man. The wagon master. It's pretty good. I like it. But this isn't 1812 either. So
yeah, the wagon master. So as you know, Andine's nosy, but she also is nosy to an extent where she doesn't want to go like talk to anybody about what's going on. So I've been doing all the private eye investigations for the campground, and I was reading the board, and the lady comes up to me and she goes, "Oh, do you want a grand design?" And I'm like, "No, actually." She goes, "Oh." I'm like, am I not cool enough because I don't own a grand design or something? And as I'm looking at their schedule, do you think they have like speakers from like all over the country that have come here to speak at this camper event? Like, dude, it's a cardboard box on fucking wheels. Like, what's so good about it?
I guess it's great to be passionate about something, but I don't get it. I don't get it. Listen, you're a lot closer to it than me. And if you don't get it, if you don't understand it, then I guess I'm not that far off.
As much as I love camping, I love being in the camper, as you know that, and I would live in it full time all the time, as long as I was moving from spot to spot. We were talking about this morning. I love camping when we're moving. It's all like you use the word adventure, like every day is a new adventure when you're constantly moving. I don't like being in the camper when I'm living in it, and that's what we've been doing for the last 30 days. We've been, since we've been parked here, we've been living in the camper. That's when it's not fun. So, but man, yeah, I love camping more than most. Probably more, in my opinion. And you're never going to catch me at a camper rally. Let's put it that way. Hey, dude, you actually have to have a ticket to get in. I'm like, how do you have a ticket to get in? It's it's a wide open campground. What does a ticket do for you? They can't stop you from walking around in the campground. You know what I mean?
That's wild. I like it. You gotta go check this out. You got to get in with that.
Anyway, so so this is the last show from the camper. I am surrounded by snooty. I didn't even think that was a real thing. I didn't think you could be a camper and like turn your nose to things and be like snooty. You drive a camper, man. like it's a camper. But apparently you can. So
I guess so.
Anyways, no. So guys, it's episode 59. We're so glad you joined in and you're watching on YouTube. As you can tell, I'm in the camper. But episode 59. It's a quick hitting episode here. We got a few topics we want to run down and go over. Before we move along, and then I can get my home studio set up again, which is going to be really nice next week, and all that good stuff. But let's start right away. Number 59, Dave. We're doing this because we're doing this, but this may be the worst number I think that we have seen since we introduced the famous numbers. Do you agree with that? Is that agreeable?
I mean, I think so, but I know usually promote numbers up a little higher than they actually are. So where do you think this falls on the seed line for you? Like a 4 or a 5 seed?
This would be so bad. Even if we had a 168 team tournament, this would be a 32 seed. Okay.
Yeah, this number's really bad. But let's give everybody the list because that's what we do. We give everybody the list of the numbers.
Well, I guess football. It's not terribly bad in football because you do have. I want to say this guy because you got a Hall of Famer, and Jack Ham. I do think. I don't know if London Fletcher will end up making the Hall of Fame. If he hasn't made it by now, then I don't know what the eligibility is in the National Football League because I think he retired somewhere in like the mid 2013-14 range. I think because I'm pretty sure London Fletcher got drafted in the late 90s. Was he part of that Super Bowl winning Rams team?
I don't know. If I'm being totally honest with you, I don't know.
He was because he signed with the Rams. I'm looking it up right now. He played college football at John Carroll, and he signed with the Rams as an undrafted free agent in 1998. He's got over 2,000 career tackles. So that means he did win. He made 4 Pro Bowls, and he did win the Super Bowl with the Rams. So I am right. I knew I kind of had a feeling. I had a hunch on London Fletcher.
That's a good career. That's a really good career. I remember 2,000 tackles.
I remember those old. Well, think about it. 2,000 tackles. That'd be 20 consecutive years of 100 tackles.
Yeah, and he didn't play 20 years. So
he didn't play 20 years. He played 99, 98 to 2013.
And
so
that's
he played
when
14
it was 16 games a season.
Dude, Fletcher was a beast, man. I'm not going to shortchange this guy. But the other guy in that name that is huge and more our generation. Remember Luke Kuechly for the Panthers?
Yeah.
He was
on. Took him out?
I think he just retired young. I really do. He was, but I mean, he was an unbelievable player. Luke Kuechly was really for like 8 or 9 years in a row with the Panthers.
Yep.
And
he was always.
But after football, I mean, there's really not much to talk about. Baseball, there was one reliever on there that wore 59 for a sustained period of time. Basketball, you were excited.
We got Rajon.
You were excited.
Not Rondo.
Yeah, not Rondo.
Rajon Tucker.
Yeah.
I mean, he did it for a stint with the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
it was last year too. It was 2022. We didn't even know it.
I didn't know it. I have no idea who he is.
And then for hockey, we had Roman Osi, who's actually been he's the captain of the Nashville Predators, really good defenseman. So, but overall, terrible number.
There we go. There's the list.
But we're doing it. That's your 59s. You can take it or leave it. But I want to hop right into the Bible verse today. Today's Bible verse comes from Romans. That is actually the book of the Bible that I've been focusing on in my morning sessions when I wake up. So this one was fresh. It's from Romans chapter 8, verse 17. And it says, "Now if we are children, then we are heirs, heirs of God and co-heirs with Christ. If indeed we share in his sufferings, in order that we may also share in his glory." And I think it's so good because, right, the ultimate is to make it to heaven, right? Is to be there in the kingdom of God for eternal life. And this I really like because the word suffering, and we must share in suffering, like in the suffering of today, right? The suffering of this earth in our physical lives and on this physical planet. We share in his suffering in the sense that, dude, we're all going through the motions every day. There's shit that we deal with in our lives. You know what I mean? But we have to suffer on earth So we get to share in his glory after we leave the world, right? We are children of God. So as a child of God, we suffer with Christ in the present life while we look ahead to the glory that we will one day share with him in eternal life. And it's a pretty deep message, and this one's deep, and that's why I picked this one, because I'm not afraid of the deeper message. Everyone, a lot of people like to pick the Bible verses, the cliche ones, right? The John 3:16s and all those. Sometimes you really got to dig deep in the Bible for some deep stuff, and this is a deep one, right? We have to share on this earth, through in the sufferings, so we get the glory when it's over, the glory to make it to heaven and be with him.
Couldn't agree more. I think one of the things that people need to realize too is God never said that it was going to be easy in this life, right? But it's a matter of sticking with your belief in God, in Christ, having a love so deep that regardless of what happens here, you believe that what's waiting on the other side is worth dealing with the suffering for. And if you give up on that faith, if you don't believe that, that's when the suffering can really take its toll and pull you off your path. But realizing that the other side is where there is no more suffering. That's where the glory is. And staying true to your love of God, to your love of Christ, to deal with some of the atrocities that do happen on this earth that we all face every single day. That's, I think, part of the message for me as well.
Yeah. I'm trying to find the words how to explain it, but like when you're so deep in faith and you give yourself to God, you really lose like the fear of suffering on this earth, because in the end, eternal life is the ultimate exchange for the suffering here. The feeling in the sense of knowing like you can't die because you know where you're going. It's such a strong feeling that you kind of let go of some of the fears of the everyday suffering, knowing where you're going is even greater than you could ever imagine. So
I think it's easy to think about that for ourselves. I think for me, for myself, like I can let that go, but it's when I start thinking about like kids, family, something happens there, that suffering takes it to another level. You know what I mean? That's where it gets a lot harder, I think.
Yeah, well, kids are usually where the game changes for me, and it's so odd that you mentioned that, because I just had a conversation with a gentleman. I met him a couple weeks ago here at the campground, and they're waiting for their house to finish being built. So kind of in the same scenario as us, we're waiting to get in the house. They're waiting for their house to finish being built. So they've been staying at the campground in their camper for a couple months. And this is, I didn't even tell you this because this was an hour ago. And I saw John. I said, John, where were you last night? I didn't see you, at the restaurant and this, that, and the other thing. And he said, man, Brett, it's been a rough week, because I literally hadn't seen him in over a week. And this is where the kids part comes in. His son fell through the skylight of their barn and 20 feet down to the concrete floor and broke his femur, cracked his skull, broke his neck. And he was at work, got a text message, emergency. And they life-starred his son from their ranch to Phoenix Children. And he made it. He's made it through all the surgeries and stuff. And the doctors say, he looks like he's on the up and up. But that just listening to him talk as a father who loves his son so much, that fear of him thinking there was a time there where he thought it was it. And I can't even fathom, because no parent should ever have to bury their child. My parents have done it. I've seen it with my brother passing away. My parents have buried a child, and it was over 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago. And I can't even say with certainty that either one of them ever recovered still from that. You know what I mean? I don't know how you recover, but you're right. The kids are the hard line in the sand where, yes, do we know that they're going to God if something was to happen to them and they're going to a better place? But your why, right? That's the biggest why, and it'll break down the strongest man in the world, when you bring it up, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So, but anyways, That's today's Bible verse. Go read Romans. Romans is a good book. Let's have a little Bible talk here real quick. Romans is a tough book to read. It takes all of your attention. You cannot read Romans if you're playing on your phone, if you're trying to do something different. Like, it is in depth, and it takes a lot of your attention span to sit down and enjoy it. That's why, like, I've been reading Romans for over a week now, because I can, with my ADHD, I can only read a little bit of it at a time before my, you know what I mean? It's just, it's very deep. It's a deep book in the New Testament, and I encourage everyone to read it, but it's not something short like Colossians or Thessalonians or anything like that. It's shorter, but it's not like a quick read where you read it in a day. Like, and it's deep. Like, you got to reread it. You'll read a paragraph and reread it. So
I find myself doing that in general. As you know, I've started more this year. That was one of my goals for the year, was to dive more into the Bible and really start making it a part of my everyday, which has been incredible. But I do find myself having to reread things over and over, and then to kind of ponder on it, think about it. What does it actually, what does it mean to me? It's been interesting going through that process. So I totally agree there.
Yeah. So, but that's your Bible verse. So read it, go read Romans, take your time with it, understand it as best you can, ask questions, Google stuff. I mean, there's so much good information out there. But, so anyways, I want to kick off today's show. We got 3 topics we're going to hit on. And the first topic, Dave, I want you to lead off the show today, because we had I wasn't heated. You were pretty heated. So I'm going to set the scene, but I'm going to let you take over. And I want you to have let's just put it this way. I'm going to cut right to the chase. Don't shop at Lowe's. The floor is yours.
Don't shop at Lowe's. I took the easy way out and went to Lowe's for the first few months of living here because it was closer than Home Depot, and I regret that choice now every single day. It's unfortunate. What I'm starting to realize is there's a lot of companies that just don't support their customers anymore. They don't back the products that they sell. They make stupid decisions that ultimately end up causing customers a lot of aggravation, money, and I think they end up losing customers. So last week, it was going to rain on Friday night, so I was like, I'm going to run home. I'm going to mow my grass. I just bought a brand new lawnmower, nice one, Honda from Lowe's. I was like, all right, I'm going to fire this thing up. I've only mowed the grass 4 times. This is going to be my 5th time. I bring it out of the garage, fill it up with gas, ready to go. I go to pull start, and the thing recoils back and almost rips my freaking shoulder out of my socket. I'm like, well, this is weird. But like sometimes like it gets a little hung up and you're like, whatever. So I pull it again, does the same thing. So I'm like, what the fuck, right? So I'm messing around with it. I must have messed around with it for 20 minutes trying to get it to go, looking underneath it, trying to see if something's jammed in the blade. Does the blade move? Did the engine seize? I don't know. So I'm finally like, well, I mean, I only bought this thing like 6 weeks ago, put it in the car, and I'm going to take it back to Lowe's. So I do that, put it in the car. Now it starts fucking downpouring while I'm driving over there. So this is already going to get me fired up. So that's this downpouring on my way over to Lowe's. I get there. I unload the thing out of the back of Casey's Terrain. I push it inside the store, and I got a couple other things to return with me while I'm there. So I get inside, and I got this lawnmower. It doesn't work. Doesn't start. Doesn't even pull. Kid's like, I mean, he's probably 18 years old working at the returns desk. Doesn't have a fucking clue. Okay. Okay. That's all he did. And then he disappears. He completely disappears. And I'm just standing there. Now there's a line starting to build behind me. So he comes back. Can't take it back. Why is that? Well, it's got gas in it. We can't take it back because it has gas in it. I go, okay. Well, I can dump the gas out. Like, that's not a big deal. Like, I can dump the gas out, but that's ridiculous. So he's like, and he's frozen again. So then he disappears again. Comes back with somebody else. So I must have to talk for him. So she comes back. She's like, we can't take that back. It's 17 days past your return window. I go, 17 days past my return window? I literally bought it 6 weeks ago. Yeah, the return policy for anything with a motor is 30 days. And it has to be unused. It has to be unused and in its original packaging. What do you mean? I go, I've used this thing 5 times, spent $700 on a lawnmower, and now you're going to tell me that I can't return it here. She goes, well, you're going to have to deal with Honda directly. That's our policy. Okay, so now I'm getting aggravated. So she's like, well, I'm going to go ask a manager. So I'm like, all right, so kid at the register, can you return this other stuff here? So he returns 2 other things for me. Then he scans the 3rd thing. I've got my receipt for all this stuff. He goes, sorry, I can't take this back. It was a toilet paper holder from the bathroom. We decided not to use it, right? So I return it. He goes, it's past 90 days. I go, what the fuck does that mean? It's past 90 days. He goes, we can't take anything back past 90 days. I go, but you still sell it. It's in the original packaging. It's never been opened. It's got factory seals on it. Can't take it back. Well, that's just ridiculous. So now I'm just really agitated. Now the manager comes out and he's like, sir, our policy is you can't return anything after 90 days with a receipt, and anything with a motor, if it's been used, you can't bring it back. You got to deal with it. So I go, you mean to tell me that I've got to now call Honda and deal with this to get my brand new mower repaired? Yep. Mm-hmm. So I was fuming. I was like, I've spent like 15 grand here in the last 3 months just doing projects at my house. I said, now you're going to turn me away. You're going to turn me into a person who never comes back here. And in fact, I'm going to tell all the people that I know how terrible of a store this is, that you won't even take care of your customers. Well, that's our policy. I go, well, you fooled me long enough. Home Depot is only 5 minutes down the road. I came here because it was easier. I let down my guard. I was always a Home Depot shopper. I was like, I will be going back to Home Depot and never walking through this store again. So I leave. Long story. I found somebody to do the mower. 2.5 weeks. My grass should be about 3 feet long by the time I get my mower back and cut it. But the funny thing is, I told Casey, I came home, I go, tomorrow I want you to take this same toilet paper holder back. I want you to tell them you don't have a receipt, and I want you to return it. She went back. They took it right back like it was nothing. How stupid. How freaking stupid. Just to piss off a customer. And I know, let bygones be bygones, and the Christian thing to do is to, it is what it is. But I have choices of places to shop. I'm going to go shop at Home Depot. And I didn't even tell you this yet, I don't think. We got an Ace Hardware that just opened right up the store. I am the happiest guy on the planet. They got everything Traeger. I stopped in there the other day. They got Traeger's, they got Traeger grills. They got Traeger pellets. They got Traeger seasoning. They got Meat Church seasoning, which is my favorite. So it's right up the street. So I can go anywhere I want besides Lowe's. Don't go to Lowe's. That's my PSA for the day.
Yeah. And I'm just going to say bravo to you. Kudos, golf clap, because the way you're talking to the audience right now is not the way you spoke to me on the phone, because I could see the steam coming out your ears. And your saying was, Brett, I'm spitting nails mad right now is what you said to me.
Yep. Spitting nails. Yeah. That's an oldie, but a goodie. And I was spitting nails because it was downpouring. I was on the phone with Honda trying to figure out what to do. And of course, by the time I get out of Lowe's and I call Honda, it's 5 o'clock. So by the time she sends me the list of places, it's 5:01 and every place is closed. So I can't get a hold of anybody today. So then I had to wait till the next day, a Saturday, and I found a place to bring it back for repair, and they were super nice. And we'll see. I don't have my lawnmower yet.
Now the lawnmower is going to break because you're going to have to cut a hayfield with a push mower.
Oh, probably. You're going to jam it right up. I'll have to bag it 17 times. Well, I came home and I was like, well, there's a neighbor kid who mows grasses for people. I see him. He rides up the street on his mower and he goes and mows people's grass. I was like, reach out to his mom, find out how much it is to cut the grass. $35 to cut the grass. It's like, I'm not paying $35 for somebody to cut the grass. I'll go out there with a pair of scissors before I spend $35 to have somebody cut my grass. That's ridiculous. And they're not going to cut it the way I want to cut it. So I'm just like, fuck it, screw it. I'll just do it.
You should offer him $10. Offer him $10 and use the lawnmower yourself.
Yeah, exactly. How about I pay you $10? You can go inside, you can sit down, you can have a drink, watch some TV, let me mow the grass, and I'll even put my own gas in it. Right? It's not a bad idea. It's actually not a bad idea.
Anyway, so we don't need to go down the Lowe's rabbit hole anymore. I've always been a Home Depot guy. I've never been a Lowe's guy. We grew up obviously where we grew up. The Lowe's went in Torrington way later, so we always had the Home Depot when the Home Depot went in. We were Carl's True Value and Home Depot people. I never was a Lowe's guy, and to this day, I still don't shop at Lowe's. I only shop at Home Depot. So, your situation and your scenario cemented that for me even more, and it segues perfectly into a really quick hitting topic I wanted to touch base on. Lowe's obviously somewhere along the line has very bad leadership. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'd agree. I don't know exactly where it falls, but leadership is a key in business, and the way you handle your customers and the experience that they get, the way you handle your employees. Yeah, leadership is a very big piece, and I would say that they don't have a very good one.
Yeah. And that's that's really the main thing we want. It worked out perfect that this happened to Dave. Not that I wanted this to happen to Dave, but it worked out perfect that this happened to Dave, and I wanted to talk about leadership because it sets the example perfectly from the top down. Because the first interaction you had with that kid, obviously he has a terrible leader because he doesn't even know how to talk to people. So why do they even have him in front of customers? That shit needs to be taught by his leader, right? And then his leader didn't know what to do, so his leader went and got his leader, and all he did was say, sorry. It's not, it's store policy. Sorry, store policy, take a fucking hike in layman's terms. And that's just leadership in general. Now, you and I have both worked for bad leaders before. We've both worked for bad leaders. I currently, and you currently, we're both in a good situation where we both have great leaders. My leader in my regular job, he is tremendous. And it's a shout out to Steve. He is tremendous. He is a tremendous leader. And I've told him that before on a phone call. I've called him before and said, dude, just want to let you know, you're a great leader. You know what I mean? And great leaders are hard to come by. There are so many leaders, managers, whatever you want to call them, supervisors that are such shitty leaders. It's unbelievable. And I get it from a certain standpoint. If you get thrust into a leadership role and you don't know what you're doing, then it's kind of not your fault. But if you are like brought up in a system to become a lead, go ahead.
But that's already a sign of bad leadership. If someone's putting you in a position to be a leader when you're not ready to be a leader or don't want to be a leader, that's bad leadership. So.
Yes, but that person in general, if it's not their fault if they're thrown into it. That I'm just giving them their doubt because they could be a great employee and not a good leader, right? Just because you're a great person and great at your job, that doesn't mean you can be a manager at that job and all of a sudden you're going to still be good. Because some people, it's just not your personality because it's hard. Becoming a great leader. It's a very fine line that you need to walk, right? Especially in today's day and age where everyone's so fucking sensitive. I could never imagine being a manager or a leader in a retail store because I would quit my job and be poor on the street before I would ever do that. Because you have to deal with the sensitive idiots and then you have to deal with the hard asses, but you also have to be somewhat sensitive and also somewhat of a hard ass, right? Because being a leader, you have to toe the line. And, as a leader, you have to be, the way that I look at the best way I think I can explain being a leader, you need to be the example. You need to be the standard, right? You need to practice what you preach. Those are like the three big things, right? Be the standard, be the example, practice what you preach to be a great leader. Because if you're not doing any of those three, or even just one of those three, like you're going to get exposed in your role. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, totally. It's so important to do those things. And I think, I've worked with a lot of people that are either rock stars at what they do, but don't have the people skills to do it, or they're really nice and likable, but they get stepped all over, and maybe they're really not good at what it is they're managing. So there's like no buy-in. There's no, by the team. Yeah. So I think by having those two things, like it is a very fine line, right? You got to be really good at what you do. You've got to, command, you've got to earn the respect of the team. You just got to lead by example, like you said, but you also have to have the compassion, the transparency. You need to be honest with people. If someone's not doing well, you got to be able to tell them if they're not doing well. You got to coach them. You got to be a good coach.
Yeah.
You can't be a dictator. You can't get in there and you can do this, this, and this. Terrible leader. But you also don't want to coddle someone, drag them along, make them feel great, even though they're doing a terrible job, because that's a disservice to people too. So you do have to be able to set the standard, maintain the standard, and still have your team behind you, have buy-in behind you. I'm in a company right now that is filled with great leaders from the top down. I haven't met a leader that hasn't shown signs of greatness there. And that's a testament to the chief leader, to the CEO of the company. That's what he's built. That's the standard he's set. In organizations, if there's a break in that line anywhere, that can be a culture killer. And it really can be a big problem that starts to just spiderweb everywhere.
Yeah. And I feel that way where I'm at now too. Like my direct leader, boss, manager, he's a great leader. You know what? His, I don't even know what the next step is, but I would guess his regional manager, leader, president is a great leader from what I hear from him. And then even to the top, to the CEO of our company, he's very visible, right? He tells you how it is. And I know I've noticed one thing in my company is like, if you're not good and you don't follow the great culture, you're gone, man. Like you're gone.
Yep.
And and that's why, because I've worked for some quote unquote, like you said, rock stars in the industry, but they were just not, to no fault of their own. They just being a team leader was just, it's not for them. Their job is to do what they do. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yep. And like I said, it's no knock. I'm not trying to throw people on the bus, not, but we've all worked for great leaders and we've worked for not great leaders. And
you know a good one when you see them, and you know a bad one when you see them as well. It's fairly obvious fairly quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and like I said, it worked out well. Like I just wanted to have that little 3-4 minute speech on leadership, and and what makes a good leader. I don't know. I guess it really depends on what kind of leader you're looking for. Are we talking about a sports coach? Are we talking about a CEO of a company? Are we talking about a manager at a retail store? Are we talking about being a dad? Right? There's so many different things that can make you be a great leader. But that's why I always go back to those three, right? Be the standard, be the example, and practice what you preach in whatever it is. And that'll set you on the right path of becoming a good leader.
Yep.
So that's kind of just wanted to touch base on that. And like I said, it tied in perfectly with your Lowe's story this week about leadership. But the third thing I wanted to talk about today, like I said, we've been trying to get more full force, fathers, the finances, the fitness, and the faith, and I think we've stepped up the game in our faith, and I'm very, very proud of that. It makes me feel really, really good, when we do a little bit more Bible talk and a little more scripture and a little more faith. And I've been and I'm be the first to admit it. I'm a bad leader. It's my department. I have been so slacking in the fitness, and I have been so slacking in the fitness side of this program, just because there's been I'm not going to make excuses. I just have been slacking in it, coming up with content and talking about things. So I just wanted to kind of get shifted back in gear here with the fitness side of things. I just wanted to just kind of check in with you and see how you're doing. Just, hold each other accountable and kind of see what's going on. I mean, and then to everyone that listens to the show, like we are in full, depending on where you're in the country, we are in full out spring. It's already May. And summer's right around the corner. And my advice to those that have been slacking on their beach body or whatever the fuck New Year's resolution is gone, like, I can't stress this enough. Like, there's no better time than this part of the year right now, late spring, early summer, to be outside. Go outside, get some fresh air, get some miles in. If you're running, walking, rucking, biking, get out there and play with your kids. You know what I mean? But I really believe the springtime is the best time of the year to be outside exercising, in my opinion, because your mornings aren't bad yet. Out here in the desert, obviously it's getting hot, but it's not unbearable hot. But just getting back to the basics of fitness, right? What are we doing, guys? What are you listening to? Are you listening to podcasts that are getting you motivated? What are you eating? What's the diet look like? What's going on? It's really just, I want to try to get back in that lane and make sure that if those of you that are listening for fitness content, it's here. I haven't gone anywhere. It's just life's been crazy. And like I said, I'm not bitching out and making excuses, but I just, how about you? What's going on in your fitness world?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is so important. Like, it's such a great time of year. You nailed it. I mean, my schedule's tough. So I still try and get out at night after dinner. I haven't gone out in the morning as much as I was when I was doing 75 hard. So I don't have to get two in a day, 2 official workouts in a day. We get out after dinner and we'll go and get a ruck in. Sometimes it's a run, sometimes it's a ruck. Usually a couple days of the week, I'll get up at 4:30 just to get it in the morning, because it is nice. I always enjoy the feeling when I'm done with a workout first thing in the morning. But while I'm at work, man, I'm there 9 hours of the day. That's not including commute time. So when I am there, I'll have my lunch pretty quick, 15 minutes, and I go for a 45-minute walk in the day. Just
Yeah.
get outside, just get some fresh air, get the legs moving, because it sucks being sedentary for the whole day, and just
Yeah.
sitting there, your legs. And I mean, I get outside, I get that sunshine that hits me, get that fresh air, and it just kind of rejuvenates me, gets me going, keeps me moving throughout the day. And those little bursts of exercise, they're not, high octane, get the heart rate up exercise, but it's still moving. And I think it's still super beneficial. So whatever it is you can do throughout the day, go do it. Just get moving. We always say that, just move. It makes a big difference. And that's a big part of what I do every day.
Yeah. And I want to tip cap to you because you could have gotten lost in the rigmarole of the 9 to 5 or the 7 to 4 or whatever it is in the commute. No, dude, you're holding yourself accountable. You call me every day. I'm out for a walk. I got my weight vest on underneath my clothes, and that's huge because most people won't do that. Most people will be like, whatever, dude. If I don't get it in before work and I don't get it after work, it is what it is. No, you've like a chameleon, right? You just kind of figured out a way to get it in somehow, blend it in, and make it all make sense. Which is good because a lot of people won't do that, especially coming off a program and you come off that high of 75 hard. It's so easy to crash back down to earth and be like, this is the life that was meant for me. Give me a fucking donut, grab me McDonald's for lunch, and you battled because that's good because most people won't battle like that. In terms of my side of the fitness thing, I'm still hammering. I was telling you this morning, this most recent stretch, I'm averaging I was 7.34 miles running every day, which is good. I mean, it's a good number.
Yeah, I mean, it's all right.
That's 50 miles a week, roughly, a little more than 50 miles a week. I have 1 month from today when this episode is released. 1 month from today, I start phase 3. So that's exciting. I got a good run in on, up until start phase 3 in a month, which will be my first attempt at phase 3. And if I fail everything. All that hard work that I started last June 2nd with Carp when we did 75 hard the first time. So I don't want to do that. I'm actually slightly scared because I know there's so much involved in like just being moved into the house and it's June and it's hot and it's, all those things are looking a little bit scary, but I'm confident that I'll be able to get through it. So for me, hammering a lot, still doing, guys, remember, we don't need a big expensive gym membership. Do your fucking push-ups, do your your air weight squats, do your crunches on the floor, do your planks. There's a lot of shit you can do without going to the gym, and there's a lot of shit you can do without buying expensive weights. I've been preaching it for years. Go buy a set of dumbbells. One set of dumbbells, 20 pounders. You can do everything with them. You don't need the big expensive gym equipment. If you have it, great. It's better, but get out and move your body. There shouldn't be any excuses. And then the other news, I did tell you I was going to run an ultra this year. So I have found my 50 miler that I'm going to run this year.
That's great.
That will be in Prescott, Arizona, and September 30th. There's a 50-mile option and a 100-mile option. I've committed to the 50, and I'm waiting on a guy. If he does the 100, if he's committed to the 50, then I'm going to do the 50. If he is not able to do it, then I'm probably going to do something crazy and do the 100.
Baby.
So we'll see, but 50 is the next step where I want to be. I want to get that 50 miler under my belt and officially do it. And that's what all these miles are built. I'm just building my body to be ready for anything, like I've said, and crush a 50 miler.
That's fantastic.
So that's really it on the fitness side, guys. Just want to get outside, get moving, get breathing, take your kids outside. You know what I mean? Play a game. What we did last weekend was so much fun. I haven't done it in a while. We played freaking Frisbee at the park at Naranja. We went to Naranja with Matt and Tiff. We played fucking Frisbee, man. Like, it was too windy to play like a game of ultimate Frisbee. Yeah. But like a game of Frisbee, like you don't even realize it. Go out and play Frisbee for 15 minutes now. And I mean, go out and play it. Dude, you get sprints, you get squats, you get jumps, you get arms. I mean, you get core. Like, what an awesome game to play. And I forgot about it because we used to fucking run ultimate Frisbee games till 10:30, 11 o'clock at night when we were younger, high school aged and, early college age. And I'm like, man, I miss that, dude. That ultimate Frisbee is a great game. I mean, there you go. Get a Frisbee. That don't cost you anything. You get a great workout playing Frisbee. right? There's a free tip for you. Go buy an $8 frisbee, eight to $15 frisbee at fucking Walmart, and you can get a great workout in.
Yep.
So yeah, that's your bit on fitness today. Turning to the book recommendation, I don't have it in front of me, and the book recommendation was actually a good one because Dave listened to a podcast and he sent it to me and told me to listen to it, and it was Ed Milet's podcast with Matthew McConaughey. And he said, it's a good listen. And I said, I'm sure it was. I said, did you read his book? And he said, yeah, they talked a bunch about his book. And if for those of you, I don't have it in front of me because it's in the storage unit. But Matthew McConaughey wrote a book 2 years ago, I think it was. It's been maybe almost 3 years now. A book called Green Lights. And it is an absolute tremendous book. I call it a memoir. I don't know what they call it. If they call it a memoir, I don't have it. Like I said, I don't have it in front of me. But it is an absolute great memoir by a great actor. And I don't say that about many actors because I don't know. I don't like to get political because a lot of actors in Hollywood can get political. And not that Matthew McConaughey hasn't gotten political before, because he has on gun control, to say, to name one most recently. But dude, it's just a memoir about his life and lessons that he learned from his dad, and it takes you from his young age to now. How he met his wife's a great story. Just persistence, right? Never giving up, always going for the next, just keeping himself motivated and driven. Then there's like a cool part where he talks about how he got stuck in the rom-com scene, right? Because he was the rom-com guy. Yep. Every freaking rom-com was him, right? And then how he wanted to break away because he didn't want to be known as the rom-com guy, right? So he went and took that Dallas Players Club role where he fucking was like anorexic. And I mean, that to me, not that I don't watch a lot of movies. That's a true actor to me, one who can play every role. And McConaughey has proven that over time and time again. He can do that. He can be the surfer dude. He can be the rom-com guy. He can do the Dallas Players Club guy. He can be an athlete in a movie. He can kind of do the serious role. Tom Hanks is another one for me that always has been able to do anything, whether it was Forrest Gump or Castaway or Saving Private Ryan, or way back in the day, what was it? Turner and Hooch. I mean, dude, these guys are so fucking talented. And if you want to know a lot about his life and just how it is to be him and what he does, he talked about when he was living in a fucking camper out in the middle of the desert for a while, dude. It's fucking cool, man. It's a good book. But I'm glad you brought up that podcast because it gave us a good book recommendation. Like I said, even though I don't have it in front of me because it's in the storage unit, Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. And the word green light, people probably, that's the biggest question. Why is it called Green Lights? Like at the end of each chapter and each segment of the book, like when something like a break went his way or something good happened, or he would always use the word. And I like reading books in the voice in my head, in the voice of the writer. Like Tucker Carlson's book I read, dude, it's pure Tucker. When I read it, you could hear him saying it. Like Matthew McConaughey's book is all Matthew when he's reading it. Like you can hear it. You can hear his voice while you're reading it in his voice. And check, green light. Like those are the words that he uses. Like when moves on to the next segment of his life. Like he got the first fucking role. Green light. You know what I mean? Like good, green light, move forward.
Yep. Yeah. And he's talking about basically, how do you avoid the red lights? How do you keep the green lights coming? It's like, all right, you start getting into these great things. He's got all this good career stuff going. Well, how do you not let that slip where you start hitting yellow lights, red lights? How do you keep them green? Yeah. How do you keep all those areas of your life in green lights? You just keep on rolling forward. Yeah, man, I'm going to read it because it sounds like a great book, because the podcast was an awesome listen. Love Matthew McConaughey anyway. So I'm going to have to check that out.
And he's your boy, man. He's a Texas boy.
Yeah. He's usually at the Texas games on the sideline.
Yeah, he's a long. Oh. Well, he went to UT Austin and then he dropped out. He mentions that in his book. He dropped out to go to acting school, and they're like, wait, what? You're going to fucking acting school? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
for sure.
But yeah, so there's your book recommendation. And guys, that's your episode 59. We appreciate you always listening. Share the show if you can. Let us know how we do. We love talking to fathers, and we love putting out the content. So stay tuned for next week in episode 60. And I don't know if I'll have the indoor studio all set up by the time we record the next show. I would like to, but we'll see what happens.
Let's hope so. I think you're almost there, so that's gonna be a good thing. Be settled in the house, family will be good. So that's a good thing. So everybody, thank you for joining. If you like the show, please continue to listen, share, like, subscribe, do all those things so we can get this message out to as many people as we can, as many fathers as possible. So keep living the full force life, and we'll see you next week.